you need to think of yourself, we all need to think of ourselves as art or engineering works in progress. The stronger you build your foundation, which consists principally of the people who know you and trust you, employers, employees, friends, family, the more easily you'll be able to handle larger or more responsible roles. A very quick point about this. We joke about people wanting to be a manager, going to McDonald's and somebody wants to be a manager. There's nothing wrong with that. But in aerospace in particular, counting coup in aerospace consists of being told by your manager that you now have direct reports. And young Joe or Janice goes, goody, I've got somebody who works for me. This is somebody I can push around and take out the garbage and all that stuff. And when you get up to the stratospheric heights, people like David, he's managing a city, got a lot of people who report to him. You either do it really well, which consists of understanding how people work and function together, or you become lord of the estate, or you become a feudal lord. There are many brilliant people who want nothing to do with people management. And you'd see that at Boeing and Lockheed. And now he's got 4 engineers. Some of these people say, I'll quit. I don't want to find out about somebody's divorce. I don't want to have to fill in. I don't want to do that. I want to do my work. So you need to look at yourself and think about, are my aspirations fame, control, power? It's important to be introspective. It really is important to maintain that. And going back to education, I was a terrible student. Oh, terrible student. Look, I went to school I started in the late 60s. I went to UCLA, a public school in the United States. Whenever, and I had a lot of security clearances, top secret and above that. And when they question you for these clearances, one of the questions they'd always ask you is, have you ever used illegal substances? And of course, when I was young, I lied. And then finally, when I was 35, I said, no. I was being questioned, and this was for a nuclear clearance. And the questioner said, sir, have you ever? And I said, if you can find me one human being who went to a public university in the 70s who didn't get high, I'd like to know about it. And times change, mores change. Now we're looking at terrible shifts in the United States and in that area. But the purpose of education is to open up the world, not to close it. So I know now you've got to do this and that to get your engineering degree, and or this is your curriculum and you've got one elective per year, or however you want to do it. It's very constraining. It's all good intentions, and there's nothing wrong with the people that they produce. But there's something that I shared with Regan, and I want you all to think about this, particularly if you're going into engineering. The world is now producing about 200% more software engineers than we're going to need. It's probably well over that. India produces more software engineers than the rest of the world combined, and they're damn good. But AI is going to scoop that up too. And you'll have a smaller and smaller, more brilliant, more concentrated energy and focus in software engineering, particularly in software research, machine learning, what they're now calling AI. If you're interested in software engineering and you think you'll make a damn superb software, by all means, go for it. For everyone else, and this is what I tell all my kids, you want to be a software engineer, be a mechanical engineer, because you need software engineering, but make that a minor. Go into an area where the scope of work will always remain open. Electrical engineering, industrial engineering, systems engineering like me. That's how I learned my trade. Don't get so narrowly focused. This is a tragedy in the 80s and early 90s that so many people became Microsoft certified experts, and these people never progressed. What are you going to do now? Are you going to work on desktops at the local computer shop? So open your manifold here. Take a look at all your options. And again, if you think you're going to be on a par with the top electricals or structural or what have you, engineers or scientists, go for it, focus on it. But if you're just brilliant and general and curious, get a double degree or have a strong major and minor. So now I'm going to shut up about that Reagan, lead me on here.
The importance of the collaboration between government, academia, private enterprise.
See, that's why I rely on you young people to keep me from going astray. Ecosystem. What's an ecosystem? An ecosystem is any group of things, living things, that are tied to each other, whether we like it or not. There are eco-cycles, eco-disasters, eco-technologies, even things like composting and what have you. Right now, and for the foreseeable future, there are two issues having to do with space environments. One is composed of the damage that rocket launches are doing to the atmosphere. 30 years ago, who cares? It would take 100 times more launches to appreciably damage the atmosphere. But the fact is that fossil fuel and basically liquid fueled propellants and solid fuel propellants contribute immense amount of bad gases into an environment where they don't normally exist. The upper atmosphere, where the bulk of propellant is expelled, is not home to a lot of hydrogen or sulfides. It's not home to a lot of aluminum particulates. It's not a natural home. And there's no such thing as introducing a new element into an established ecosystem without causing damage. It doesn't happen, and we're seeing evidence of it now. Similarly, the moon's got something like 120 pieces of space junk sitting on it. Mars is catching up. It's laughable right now to think about that, but down the road, we'll be introducing bacteria into the Martian climate. There are anaerobic bacteria that can live without oxygen. There are bacteria that can live after being frozen, extreme temperatures. There are other kinds of organisms that we try very hard. We try to sterilize everything, but still, we are going to be introducing new chemicals, new processes. We don't really yet know what mining will look like on the moon, what kind of systems we'll have to develop. Understanding and learning about environmental issues is going to be an important part of comprehending and understanding space ecosystems. Then there's the economic ecosystem. And at Virtus, we've talked about this because our proposal for the future is to change the world's economy by providing universal, inexpensive power. That's going to have a ripple effect. That's going to put a lot of industries out of business or markedly shut them down. What, in fact, are going to be the results of mining on the moon? The first result will be getting materials to support our own life there. After a time, perhaps even producing enough oxygen and water to have below ground habitats, sustaining habitats. The spacecraft ecosystems, swarm of satellites, I think their satellites in low Earth orbit and medium Earth orbit now comprise 2/3 of all the active satellites. This is one company up there. They're going to be introducing another 10 or 20,000 satellites for just that data system. In fact, I believe they just swallowed up Swarm, which was an early Canadian satellite data system. If you don't coordinate, then you just have a bunch of chaotic problems with interconnectivity. Now, having said that, we'll have what, 40, 50, 60, 70 data satellites. The Chinese have announced that they're going to put up 100,000 milsats, military satellites. And that's a fraction of what they intend to do in the future. China has announced that it intends to dominate space. They've said so. And they intend to do it by military means, also said so. So the space ecosystem is now going to consist of people with rifles facing each other and daring each other to fight first. It's regrettable, but having lived through the arms race, and in fact, having been an arms and weapons designer, I can tell you that once that process starts, nothing will stop it. How do we manage that? How do we create a space ecosystem that's managed by conventions and by treaties? There's been a lot of news now about the United States and other nations participating in the space analog of the law of maritime law. The United States is one of quite a few countries that don't subscribe to it because we feel that the law of the sea or maritime law constrain our ability to expand. But if you're Indonesia or anywhere, Cuba, what have you, what are your rights in space? Your rights are what you can put up there. If Cuba doesn't have the ability to develop a satellite or to put one up there, they got to piggyback with somebody else. So going back, the new space ecosystem is going to be composed of the same three parts that all terrestrial ecosystems are. These are industry, academia, and government. No space company or project in the world is independent of government support. The bulk of SpaceX launches are government programs. The bulk of Blue Origin's revenue for years to come will be the space station that they're hoping to build. Same goes for all of the major rocket suppliers. Your ability to work in any one of those environments improves by understanding the other two environments. You may be a customer. You may be someone who really does want to open up Joe's tanning salon in low Earth orbit. As costs come down, hotels will go up. There'll be commercial opportunities. The other side is if you're interested in defense applications, we're designing whole new generations of rockets. We're designing new propulsion types of propulsion. Dave and Tom, all the members of Solis, we've been discussing internally what means of propulsion will be most economical for us. So for those of you who have not heard of electromagnetic propulsion or what's called Hall effect engines, try to learn something about that. These are near massless thrusters. They produce very little thrust, less than a kilogram of thrust, but in space, you can move a 20-ton satellite just fine with pulses of 1 pound thrust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've seen a video of that for sure.
Extraordinary. That's one of the new emerging technologies. Been around for a long time, but building them cheaply. Another emerging technology, which goes back thousands of years, is solar sails. And just imagine a sail in space, a sailboat sail in space.
Yeah.
Thing is, what do you anchor it to? And the solar wind is there forever. Anything that's pointed at it will be pushed out. What can you do with solar sails? You can move tons of cargo. If you want to send, let's say, 1,000 tons of construction materials to Mars, why put them on 10 rockets? Just hook them up to a cargo carrying solar sail, drop them on Mars, and come back. It'll take a year or 2 years or 3 years, but you don't care. You've got construction projects. Again, solar sails are going to come, but it's going to need a lot of new thinking and a lot of new engineering ideas. The new space economy, about which another colleague who's also works with us to a certain extent, Karen Jones at the Aerospace Corporation. I recommend reading some of her papers, Karen L. Jones, but Dave has left us. That's unfortunate. Yeah. What she writes about is profitable utilization of space using improvements in economics. Axiom bet the farm on sending tourists to space. So those of you who are interested in microeconomics, their idea was that they would get billionaires to put up $50 million to go up to the space station on SpaceX rockets. So they didn't own any of the technology. They were just a facilitator. And they had 2 launches. The cost of designing to get them up there was 4 times. In other words, it was, I think, $200 million to put them up, and they're paying $50 million for the ticket. So this idea of space tourism based on billionaires, there really aren't that many billionaires, and most of them don't want to give up 2 years of their life to train for a space mission. Will there be bulk tourism? Absolutely. Absolutely. Once we get the equivalent of Victoria Clippers, fast, affordable, going up into orbit, all kinds of things will develop.
I personally definitely want to go to space, and I know that someone put in their sign up that that someone else, and I don't know if he's in the crowd, but definitely wanted to go to space as well. Good on you.
Then let me do the third part of the astronaut saga.